Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really intense personal story. It's about a professional psychic who is absolutely convinced her gift came from God until one single conversation made her believe she was actually part of a demonic deception.
So let's get right into it. This whole explainer follows the story of Jessica, a professional psychic medium who had this exact question dropped right in her lap. And it sent her on this journey that would completely upend her life and make her reevaluate everything she thought she knew about her abilities. And this was Jessica's gut reaction. You have to understand, she wasn't just a psychic who happened to be Christian. She believed her work was a direct extension of her faith. It was all one and the same to her. To really get why this was such a crisis for her, you gotta understand just how deep her conviction ran. Jessica saw herself as an Irish Catholic. She would pray before every single client session, believing with all her heart that she was a vessel for God's work. And what's so wild is just how seamlessly she blended these two worlds. For her, there was zero contradiction. Wearing a cross, saying her prayers, and communicating with spirits, it was all part of the same devout practice. In her mind, she was absolutely helping people, and she was doing it all for God. And then, boom, everything changed. It all started when she just happened to listen to a podcast. The guest was a man named Riaan, a former Satanist, and what he had to say sent her entire worldview into a complete tailspin. I mean, think about it. This wasn't just some random opinion. To Jessica, this was a direct hit on her core identity. The idea that her life's work, which she saw as a holy gift, was actually demonic? Well, it kicked off this period of incredibly painful internal conflict. And what happened next? Wow. It was just this rapid-fire series of really bizarre, unsettling events that Jessica started to interpret as these urgent supernatural signs. So let's just walk through this, because the sequence is pretty chilling. First, the podcast plants that seed of doubt. Then, almost immediately, she's hit with this sudden, agonizing illness that lands her in the emergency room, and doctors have no idea what it is. And then, she stumbles upon this book with an incredibly specific message on the back. It all felt like it was converging on her, like a message was being sent directly to her. And this right here, this is the moment everything flips. At first, she thought Riaan, the guy from the podcast, he must be the wolf. But that feeling just wouldn't stick. The suspicions started turning inward, and this terrifying thought crept in. What if I'm the wolf? What if I'm the one in sheep's clothing, deceiving all these people while thinking I'm doing God's work? So she's completely overwhelmed, right? She needs answers. And she says she felt this spiritual nudge, this push, to contact an old acquaintance named Isabel, a friend who was literally about to enter a convent to become a nun. So Jessica just spills everything to her. The podcast, the weird illness, the book, that wolf in sheep's clothing quote, all of her confusion. And Isabel just listens patiently, takes it all in, pauses, and then says 3 words that cut through all the noise. And just like that, in that single moment, hearing those words from a friend she trusted spiritually, all the confusion, all the internal battling, it was just gone. The battle was over. She had her answer, and she decided right then and there to walk away from it all. And when I say her response was immediate, I mean immediate. This wasn't a slow fade out. She systematically erased the entire professional identity she had spent years building. Her Instagram, her own podcast, her client emails, everything just gone in an instant. Okay, so this begs the question, right? How could a deception like this even work, especially on someone who so genuinely believed they were connecting with a divine source? Well, the source material offers a pretty specific theological framework for this, and it's mostly explained by Riaan. The whole explanation really comes down to this one concept, the familiar spirit. Riaan describes these spirits not as all-knowing prophets, but more like cosmic stalkers. They just observe. They watch a person's life so closely from birth that they become intimately familiar with every single detail, names, private memories, family secrets, you name it. So this model breaks down the process. The spirit provides the psychic with these shockingly accurate details from a person's past. And of course, that validates the whole experience for the client. They think, wow, there's no way she can know that. But according to Riaan, that's all just a setup. The real goal is that final step, to use that trust you've earned to plant destructive ideas and influence the person's future,
all while disguised as helpful guidance. Riaan also points to this other really critical distinction: how the information is received. He claims that deceptive, demonic information comes through the mind. You see it as an image in your third eye, or you hear it as a thought. In contrast, he says that real, divine communication from God is felt in the heart. It's more of a deep, emotional, intuitive experience, not just a mental download of facts. So after completely tearing down her old life, there was really only one last step for Jessica: to fully embrace her new path and make her new identity official. And for her, this was a huge, pivotal moment of repentance. But she said that instead of feeling shame or judgment, she was just overwhelmed by this feeling of being welcomed back and completely loved despite everything. And maybe this is the most profound part of her whole story. After all those years of having this special, unique gift that set her apart from everyone else, the most powerful feeling she experienced was just being ordinary. She wasn't a medium anymore. She was just, in her own words, another soul that just loved Jesus. And to her, that feeling was absolutely beautiful.
Ultimately, Jessica's story really makes you think, doesn't it? It forces us to ask this huge question about where we draw the line. For her, that line became crystal clear, and it demanded a complete and total life change. It's just a powerful look at how one person's entire understanding of the spiritual world can be completely transformed.